Demna's Gucci collection, which was interesting for a multitude of reasons, to be honest. Yeah, the Gucci collection, let's get into it. So we saw from Demna's first Gucci collection that he was kind of not doing his own thing. He was just really referencing a lot of past designers that have been at Gucci, whether that's Frida Giannini, Alessandro Michele, Tom Ford. Mainly, a lot of the collection was Tom Ford, but I think this collection is way more Tom Ford and not much anything else. Now, what I find really strange about Demna's Gucci, even though I like it, by the way, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Some people really don't like it. I personally like it, but why does he keep saying, this is not my vision, this is not my vision, my real vision is going to come in February, so don't take what I'm designing seriously. It's like, at this point, you've literally produced 2 collections. You cannot claim that it's not your vision and you've literally done 2 collections. That to me just doesn't make any sense. So I don't like that he's trying to distance himself from his own work. I find that really, really odd. It's like, just, say that these are your ideas for Gucci and keep it stepping. I don't understand this whole like, oh, this is not my vision type of thing. Because what's going to happen, and this is why I always say Demna just needs good PR. Even though I like him as a designer, I like what he's doing at Gucci. I liked a lot of what he did at Balenciaga, especially the earlier time. But when he talks, it just doesn't go well. He needs to not say things. Because the worst thing that can happen to Demna is his vision gets launched in February and it all looks like old Tom Ford. That's just going to backfire. It's going to make him look bad. So he needs to stop, talking and just design the clothes. There's designers that should talk, that don't, step on their own toes. But I think Demna, every time he talks, he steps on his own toes. So I think it's not really that great. But anyway, going into the collection. So like I said, this collection is very Tom Ford. What this reminded me of, and Demna, for people that don't know, Demna actually did the photography for this collection, which was kind of interesting. It's very Tom Ford, and not just aesthetic, but even like philosophy and the way it's done. When you look at old Tom Ford collections, you see in the runway videos, I won't show you the videos because of copyright, but basically in the old Tom Ford runways, you would have like a spotlight that would follow the models, which would really focus on the clothing and also give you time to know what to focus on during the collection. And Demna has kind of brought that back with his own photography by, having this sort of spotlight effect on each of the looks. So I like that too, but that also just lets us know that this is very Tom Ford coded. It just says, I enjoyed the collection, very Ford coded, but I do miss Michele. Yeah. The only reason he's saying that is because he's reviving Tom Ford memories first, which will then allow him to contextualize his later shows within Gucci's overall history. Fashion, but for dummies. To be fair, that's a good point, because maybe I'm always looking at things from my perspective, and it's like, if you cover fashion like me, or you've just been into fashion, you know about Tom Ford's work. We get spoon-fed Tom Ford's work constantly. The big, coffee table book that everyone has is that black Tom Ford book. So yeah, we all know about his work. We all know what Tom Ford's Gucci looks like. So I guess for the everyday consumer, especially, actually, Luke, you're really right now that I think about it. The reason why you're really right, we've talked about this in past streams, where the typical Balenciaga customer that was a big fan of Demna doesn't really know anything about fashion. I remember I had that tweet where I was talking about, I was on the Balenciaga Reddit and they were saying that Demna basically created Balenciaga, and before Demna, no one cared about Balenciaga, as if Nicolas Ghesquière did not exist, as if Demna Vesalia literally wasn't re-releasing stuff that Nicolas Ghesquière designed, like the City bag, for example. So those customers just don't know anything about fashion or fashion history. So it is a good point to say that Demna might have to spoon feed them an understanding of what, Gucci historically is. And that Gucci, used to make luggage and leather goods and all this sort of stuff. To me, it's just so automatic. Like, it's so obvious. Like, we know that. But to be fair, the average consumer does not know that. And I learned that during Demna's time at Balenciaga, because they just didn't know that Nicolas Ghesquière basically made all these crazy things that people still talk about at Balenciaga. Like, from the sneakers that were really famous, to the bags that were really famous, to a lot of the ready-to-wear pieces that were famous. So yeah, it's very, very, very necessary, to be honest. I wonder if he feels Kering hasn't given him full reign. I feel like they are giving him full reign. What was that thing he said? He said Balenciaga, he was only given onions and potatoes. So, what was the phrase again? At Balenciaga, he was only given onions and potatoes, but at Gucci, he has the full range of ingredients. That was a hilarious quote from Demna, but yeah. But anyway, let's go look at the looks one by one, as we don't have a runaway video. So the collection opens with what Demna calls like lightweight tailoring. A lot of these tailored pieces are actually made in a very nice archive silk fabric, and they're kind of woven in a way to simulate like an aged feeling, which I thought was quite interesting. Now, this idea of lightweight tailoring, I do like, because I know Demna had a quote where he was saying that luxury doesn't have to be heavy. It was in the show notes, and he believes that luxury is actually about, things being constructed well, but also being lightweight. So it's easy to wear and seamless to wear. I do like that idea. I don't think that, fashion has to be bulky. There's this weird thing in fashion where everyone thinks that everything has to be a million GSM. And some people genuinely think that the heavier something feels, the better quality it is, which obviously isn't true if you know anything about quality and fabrics. But that's just what people think. So I think that I like that he's pushing against it. However, one argument and caveat I have to make, sometimes when designers say, we're making everything lightweight, I always, put my nose up, because I'm wondering, are you doing it because it's a cost-cutting exercise, or are you doing it because that's actually your philosophy and, what you want to do? Because we know when Demna was at Balenciaga, they were cutting corners, and this is the same Kering, right? They were cutting corners. The Triple S was made in Italy. All of a sudden, it's lighter, and they started producing it in China. And then their argument was that, the shoe was too heavy, so we wanted to make it lighter. That's the situation where, no, you're just cutting cost and finding an excuse for it. So sometimes I always, have to add that extra context. Like, are you doing it because that's your philosophy, or are you doing it because, you're trying to increase profit margins? But yeah, so going on, these are the same kind of tailored pieces across these earlier looks. Of course, here we have a mini skirt, and then we have a Jackie. And also, I do like that the Jackie bags were kind of reimagined in sort of a soft calf skin. There were also different versions in like a croc effect kind of bag. That was really cool. But moving on, I also think the heels were really interesting. Apparently, I haven't seen them, and I'm going to see them in person eventually when, these things either go into like some sort of re-see or in a showroom. But apparently they have like really nice cushioned footbeds. And that's so important, right? Because what do we always talk about when we talk about heels? They're really uncomfortable. They're painful to wear. They hurt your feet. So if they have this really amazing, footbed on the shoes, that's nice. That's nice for women to, not destroy their feet. Try it because they want to look chic, You can also look good and not destroy your toes in the process. So that's cool to see. These shoes, these are going back to some of Demna's weird flat shoes, and he's been doing, even from the first collection, these really flat pointy shoes. These are his idea of ballerinas for men. And that's why he's had these ballerina shoes in men's sizes. I don't really like them at all. They look like genie shoes. However, I do appreciate innovation and people trying to do different things in fashion. I'll never be against that. So even though it's personally not for me and I don't want to look like, the genie from Aladdin, I think it's kind of a cool idea. Yeah, someone saying love the aviators. I love the aviators too. These are an idea that he's brought forward from his first collection. Of course, this is a very Tom Ford idea. Tom Ford designed a lot of aviators himself. Also, Tom Ford he's famous for wearing leather jackets and aviators anyway. So that's where the reference comes from. Let's go once again. We've got the heels and the different tailored pieces and the aviators. This is something that I think commercially will work really well. I know he had the leather jacket because he was saying, and we'll get there, that he said in the archives he was seeing that there were a lot of leather jackets, and he kind of was thinking, what is a way that I can modernize leather jackets to change the shape into kind of what people wear in the contemporary fashion space, but also look at the references to you know, all the different leather jackets in the archives. So that was really cool. I think the whole grosgrain thing is going to sell because I think that people are obsessed with logos. Like people, even when it's not a logo, people just want you to know that it's Gucci. And it's like, if I wear the leather jacket with the grosgrain on the sleeve or the denim with the grosgrain on the side, everyone knows it's Gucci. Everyone knows my jeans are expensive. Consumers are basic like that. So these jeans, I think, are going to fly off the shelves. And I do think that Demna's Gucci is going to sell really well. And that's kind of the goal. That's why he's there. Like the aviators are definitely going to sell. The grosgrain stuff, a lot of the footwear I think is going to sell. I think these reimaginations of Gucci bags are really going to sell. I'd like to see him design something new at Gucci, like a bag that really people take to and not just, you know, recontextualize Jackie bags or Dionysus bags and stuff like that. And I like to see him do other stuff as well. Dolce says they can't convince me to care about this shit. Jeez. Tough crowd. Here we've got the massive Jackie, the same heels. Of course, this is a very Tom Ford styling thing, like exposing the chest. He did that in the first collection too. And here, the double G belt. There's not much to talk about here, other than, of course, he had some other footwear offerings. These are some of the tassel loafers he was offering. Here we've got like the Dionysus bag. He had it in many different, you know, there's ones with sequins, there's ones with like, I think faux fur. What do you guys think actually about these Jackies and Dionysus bags he's been bringing back? Do you guys think that people are going to take to those and like buy those, especially the kind of weird ones with the fur and the different fabrics? What do you guys think about that? Here, once again, we've got the tailoring going on. We've got the ballerinas for men once again. This colorway of this style of shoe looks atrocious, but they obviously know what they're doing. The merchandisers know what they're doing, and people are going to buy that because, you know, like I said, logos, signifiers, people love those things. We've got the leather jackets, which are very Tom Ford. You've got the sportswear pieces. I also think what Demna has done, and this is an idea that he's carried over from the first collection to this collection, is he's designing clothing for every different kind of customer and character. Therefore, in every one of his collections, at least the 2 collections so far, there's something there to wear for every different kind of customer. And that's obviously deliberate. I think they are struggling financially and they want every customer to see themselves in the products and to find something that they can buy. I love the flare split jeans / pants. Yeah. I'm not sure the ballerina shoes work. They're probably growers. Yeah. Then maybe they might grow on me eventually, but right now I just think they look like genie shoes. This is one of the tiny Alessandro Michele, you know, things that he put in there. There were a few pussy bows across the collection, but not too many, to be honest, not too many. Here we have the classic loafers, but once again, these ones have spikes on them. The idea behind this, according to the show notes, is that Demna kind of wanted to reimagine this idea of DIY. So when you buy your own loafers and you try to like bedazzle them or make them interesting, this kind of punk energy that people used to add to their clothing where they customized their footwear. So that was the idea behind why the loafers have spikes. Here we've got this like faux fur effect and then the croc effect on the shoes. This bag also, the grosgrain, like really heavy like weekender bag, the really big one. I think this might work really well. I think it might sell well too. This is another thing he's been doing in these collections. Like every now and then we get like some form of a trunk being held by a model to kind of remind you about the history of Gucci and the fact that, you know, they started making leather goods and luggage. I mean, if you guys know about the history of Gucci as a brand, Gucci was a busboy at the Savoy Hotel, and he was very inspired by the lifestyle of the rich people that would stay at the Savoy Hotel. And he wanted to make a brand that kind of mirrored that. That's why, you know, the horse bit, the things to do with like horses, the luggage, the leather goods, that's kind of the history of the brand. So he's kind of reintroducing this to the consumers because, once again, we've talked about this earlier, the typical young Gen Z or even younger customer, I don't know if they don't read or they just don't care to know, but they just don't know about fashion history. So you kind of have to spoon feed them all this information slowly, which is kind of what Demna is doing. And that's a point that Luke made that I thought was a really good point. Here, once again, we have luggage. This was a piece that everyone was talking about, this sort of like scuba diving, sort of surfer wetsuit, which is kind of like a mixture between this wetsuit and a bodycon leather jacket, but it's actually, there's two versions, one in wool and then one in leather, which is really cool. And here we've got the heels, but with different studs and the horse bit. Yeah, this is the grosgrain leather jacket I was talking about. We've actually seen Demna wear this. Let me see if I can get the picture of Demna wearing it, because he was wearing it, he wore it to something recently. Yeah, this is where he was wearing it. But yeah, the whole idea behind this jacket, once again, like I said, he was looking at the archive of Gucci and he found there to be a lot of leather jackets and he was finding a way to kind of modernize it. I think this will sell really well. It depends on the price, because this looks like the kind of thing that could be super expensive. Yes, it was the Lacma, there we go. But this looks like the kind of thing that could be super, super expensive. But if they price it well, I think that, you know, it could sell really well. It just really, really depends on the pricing. You'd be surprised how much resonance this taste of style still has among spoiled Chinese rich kids in London, aka at UAE. Do not make me laugh. Do not make me laugh. In what way is it modernized? Oh, it's the shape. So Tom Ford leather jackets, if you look, they fit a lot tighter. So I guess what Demna means by it being modernized is just that nowadays clothing is a bit more loose fitting. It's a bit more wide. It's a bit more boxy. And this shape of a leather jacket is kind of a middle ground between the really oversized stuff he was doing at Balenciaga and then the older Tom Ford leather jackets that fitted a lot tighter to the body. So I think that's kind of what he means by, you know, modernizing it. It's more to do with the shape than anything else. Although styling wise, I don't know whose idea it was to style this, but this styling is terrible. We need to stop. Where is Lotta Volkova when you need her? We need to not have the grosgrain jacket with the grosgrain denim with the grosgrain bag. That looks atrocious. That does not make me want to buy it, if that makes sense. That does not look good. Here, once again, the ode to Alessandro Michele with the pussy bow blouse. Also, the color red is very Tom Ford. Red is a very big Tom Ford color. It was a color that he liked to use. And I mean, there's the famous tuxedo, the red tuxedo that Tom Ford designed that, you know, is in the ether somewhere. And not the grosgrain on the grosgrain, but here, once again, we have another idea, but this time it's like a denim, a washed denim version of the jacket with the grosgrain, and then of course matching denim. But the whole matchy thing, styling wise, I don't think it looks great. Moving on, this is a very Alessandro Michele aesthetic once again. But at this point, you guys get the collection. It was also very funny because a lot of the looks in the collection also referenced like celebrities and pop culture. This look here just reminds me of TikTok. You know, it's a different idea of what we see on TikTok, right? So normally on TikTok, we see people wearing a white tee, the boxy kind of flared blue denim, and then loafers. This is kind of a less interesting version of that. This is like, you know, just slightly flared denim with the loafers with spikes and then the V-neck t-shirt with the grosgrain belt. This is like the TikTok, but make it more basic. Make it like a million times more basic. Oh, I like these heels in pink. I like the monogram in pink, to be fair. I think it looks nice. It looks a lot nicer than some of the other colorways. These slides look like the fake slides that you always see at the flea market. Obviously, we know that Demna and even Alessandro Michele did this at Gucci too, where he kind of did this fake Gucci collection where the clothing was deliberately meant to look like fake Gucci clothing. But when I see those slides, I'm like, yeah, this literally looks like fake Gucci from top to bottom. This is Gucci and this is what I mean by Demna is designing something for every kind of customer. This is for the Miami kid. The Gucci slides with the Gucci shorts, with the Gucci shirt, with the Gucci bag. This is for the hot weather kids, the rich kids in Mexico, the rich kids in Miami. When they're not wearing the Versace silk shirts, they're wearing their Gucci outfit. I can find the slides at the dollar store. So this piece was actually cool, to be fair. This kind of like faux sort of thing. So these coats were actually made of, from the show notes, they said strips and pieces of silk, goat's hair and feathers that they kind of made together to make shilling. Now, something I will give Demna credit for, and this is something that I definitely felt like when I was in Paris not too long ago, when he did that 10-year retrospective of Balenciaga, where you really got to see a lot of stuff that he's done over the years at Balenciaga and the construction that has and the techniques that have gone into it. I do appreciate that a lot of the times in his ready-to-wear, there are quite some advanced techniques that they use to make a lot of these pieces. This piece is definitely one of them. So I definitely appreciate it because I can imagine it feels really nice to wear based on the materials that they've used. So I have to give him credit on that. Someone saying not as interesting as Louis Trotter's faux fur. True. I do like it though. I do definitely like it. This is a nothing burger of a look once again. Okay, here again, once again, we have this sort of faux fur technique that I'm talking about. Really, really cool. Also, I like the shape. I like the silhouette of this. One of the more interesting pieces in the collection. I like the shape of these trousers. My issue is the fabric. So I don't like ultra lightweight, wide trousers because when you wear really lightweight trousers and you're walking and the wind blows, it gives a horrible silhouette. It just looks like the shape of your leg and then some fabric on the side. So anytime I wear, really wide fitting trousers, I need it to be a really structured trouser, either made with like wool or like quite a strong, cotton or something. But yeah, I can't do this sort of lightweight, baggy stuff. I don't like the way it's not flattering, at least not on me when I'm walking, especially in the UK because it's really windy. Really, really windy. Here we have the bodycon leather. Once again, we've got a take on David Beckham. This is a typical footballer outfit. The skin tight V-neck with the white trousers and the Gucci sneakers. This might as well be a runway for a football collection. This might as well be a Premier League footballer runway, to be honest. Some more cool looks. I do like the shape of the denim. I do like the split on the side and how it opens up the foot on the heels. I like the styling. This is what I mean. It's so weird how there's really good styling in a look like this. But then in other looks, the styling is like atrocious, really weird. They need to hire Lotta, like ASAP. That's exactly what I love about wearing on plissé pants. They flow so nicely in the wind. Oh yeah, 100%. And I think the pleats help in, even when the wind is blowing, it's quite flattering. I also would say that un plissé holds its shape quite well. Even though they're lightweight, funny enough, but they do hold their shape quite well, which helps. Yeah, Jack Grealish. Is Jack Grealish still an ambassador for Gucci? I think he is. So yeah, that look here, Jack Grealish is definitely going to be seen wearing this head to toe, for sure. For sure. He's definitely going to wear that. Once again, kind of like the football sort of, bad boy sort of thing, topless. This is the kind of fit that you see athletes wear when they go on holiday. So they're topless with like loafers and a duffel. Like I've seen NFL players and like football players look like this on holiday, actually. Oh yeah, do people not know? Jack Grealish was a Gucci ambassador. Literally. Like Jack Grealish was literally a Gucci ambassador. Do people not know this? Maybe because obviously like I follow football so closely. Yeah, I just Googled it. Jack Grealish became a global ambassador for Gucci in 2022, signing a significant 7-figure deal that marks an unprecedented move for the luxury brand to partner with a sports person, often seen wearing their apparel even before the official announcement and featuring in Gucci Town on Roblox. And all he wears is like the worst Gucci known to man. Any of the bad pieces that Gucci makes is what he wears. Like stuff like this, stuff like this, like all the most cliche, terrible looking, Gucci pieces. That's kind of what he wears, which makes sense. He's a footballer. Like most footballers dress really bad. But yeah, this is literally Gucci's official website also of them talking about Gucci Town welcomes Jack Grealish. And obviously they had the Roblox collab. But yeah, so I didn't know people didn't know that. Like he's literally an ambassador for Gucci still, it seems. So some of those looks, when I was looking at some of these looks, I'm like, oh, this is kind of like Jack Grealish football fan core. The poster child for Chavs. Yeah, Jack Grealish definitely is. I mean, that's how Chavs dress, no? Like how Jack Grealish dresses is very chavvy. To be fair, it is very chavvy. Very, very chavvy. Here we have this kind of snakeskin effect going on. I like this jacket. I like the boots too. This was the all velvet piece. Trousers. the duffel. You can't really see the footwear though. I'm curious. Are those just okay? Those are just like velvet slippers. So this is kind of just an extra luxurious sort of lounge outfit. Although it's going to be so expensive, unless you're like a millionaire, I don't think you're gonna wear this to lounge around. I definitely wouldn't. This would be going out stuff just based on the price. Some more of it once again. Some of the boots, track jackets, grosgrain on the loafers, and the sort of velvet sheer pieces. That's also very Tom Ford. Here we've got some nightwear once again, the PJs, the slippers. Looks like a toiletry bag to me. Gucci, some certain products just Gucci shouldn't, like Gucci toiletry bags look so bad. Obviously there's a way to like make it look nice, but this does not look great. I would not want to be caught dead or alive having a toiletry bag that looks like that. That's insane. This is also a really cool look. Look at the bag. Chav is a working class person with zero taste. No, I don't think being a chav has anything to do with taste. I think being a chav is just about class. So as you guys know, British culture is very classist. So chavs are people that are working class most likely. They talk a certain way. Like, do you know, are you all right, mate? Like, how you doing, mate? Like, are we over there, mate? That's how chavs talk. They dress a certain way. This is chav, because classism in the UK has nothing to do with money. I feel like it's quite different to a lot of other places. Like, you can't go into a higher class sometimes, even when you earn more money. So like a footballer can be a millionaire, a multi-millionaire, and still be a chav because when they buy clothing, they dress like Jack Grealish, which is associated with like chavs with money, right? Like Essex, like rich kids in Essex, they dress like that. They drive Lamborghinis and they wear like all over print Gucci pieces and they're really boisterous and they cause a nuisance. So I think it's more to do with class. It's not really necessarily about taste. Obviously, what chavs do and generally kind of how they present themselves is seen as in bad taste, but a lot of times it isn't just about that. Sometimes you can be called a chav just because you sound a certain way. You could literally dress normally and you'll still be called a chav because you have a certain accent. So I think it's quite complex. There's like elements to it, to be honest. Grealish doesn't remind me of chav, to be fair. No, Grealish is a chav. I definitely think Grealish is a chav. Burberry football hooligans, those are chavs, 100%. 100%. Chav is kind of international lower class people who got money in 2000s and buy expensive things without knowing it. So yeah, so you can have rich chavs, you can have poor chavs, you can have middle class chavs. So it's all over the spectrum. It's more about the way you talk, the way you dress, where you go on holiday. So like chavs would go to Shagaloof, would go to Magaluf on holiday, or they'll go to Ibiza on holiday, or they'll go to Ayia Napa on holiday, all those like island holidays, or they go to like Benidorm. Someone who's not a chav probably wouldn't go there because they don't want to be around chavs. So they would go on holiday to Japan or to Rome, so it's kind of like the way you live your life, where you go on holiday, how you dress, how you sound. It's like so many elements. That's why I said it's kind of complicated. Obviously, I've grown up in London and the UK mainly, so I kind of understand kind of the nuance within it. But yeah, it's kind of interesting there. Is there a proper way to talk? Of course there is. The Queen's English. If you speak with, what do we call it? Received pronunciation. Received pronunciation essentially is you pronounce words the way that it says you should pronounce them in the dictionary. So I wouldn't consider myself to have received pronunciation. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. Yeah, I'm somewhere in the middle. Someone who has received pronunciation, you can tell. It's quite obvious. That's kind of like technically the proper way to speak if we were in terms of this like class conversation. So someone that speaks like that would be associated with being like upper class or upper middle class, to be honest. Ethnicity is also important. This is true. Chavs are pretty much white. Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought someone is a chav that isn't white. Yeah, it's mainly only white. I don't even think you can have a chav that isn't white, to be honest. It's kind of weird. But yeah, moving on. We had the chav conversation. We've got some briefs once again if you kind of want to wear head to toe Gucci to your next beach visit. Leather duffels once again. And we've got the faux technique, Dionysus bags, And here we've kind of got these sort of nighttime looks, it seems, as the last pieces in the collection. So yeah, that's the Gucci collection. Do I like it? Because some of the pieces I would wear, yes. Is it an interesting collection? No. Is there too much Tom Ford in this collection and not enough Demna? Yes. So I'm really looking forward to this Demna's actual debut, which they keep saying, which will be in February. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does, because they keep, you know, pushing away this idea that, oh, this is not my vision. It's not my full vision. It's not my real vision. So I'm so looking forward to what they do in February. Like, I'm expecting fireworks, the way they keep saying this. Okay, someone's asking me my favorite look. Let me have a look through these t-shirts and pajamases and bathrobes and jackets and all that. What is my favorite look? Let me go through. The thing is, I'm more looking at pieces. So the aviator sunglasses, I definitely will pick those up at some point. So I like the sunglasses. I mean, the footwear in this collection definitely isn't for me. I would get the leather jacket if it didn't have that massive grosgrain. I might still get it, but I don't know. I'm still in two minds about that, because I'm in the market for a leather jacket. I'm looking at Eddie Slimane Celine leather jackets. I'm looking at old Tom Ford leather jackets. I'm looking at Saint Laurent Paris leather jacket. So I'm actually in the market for one. So we'll see about that. What else did I personally like for myself in the collection? I mean, some of the looks that I like this coat here, faux fur coat, it's not menswear. I think my favorite pieces in the collection were actually menswear pieces. Like, I did like this look with the faux fur and the red heels. I liked a lot of the earlier looks with the tailoring, to be honest. I just like the way it was styled. But yeah, not much there, to be honest. It's so commercial. It's like, if I have so many of these pieces, like I have a track jacket, I have a long coat, I have blazers, you know, so it's just like a lot of it is a bit of a nothing burger. Okay, someone's saying I like the tassel loafers. I think because I just have so many loafers and I have tassel loafers already, so I'm not in the market for it. But would we actually complain if every single reference point of what Demna is doing is heavily influenced by Tom Ford for forever? I don't know. I think it just depends. I think when I covered this on Instagram and TikTok, a lot of people are kind of mad about it. So it seems like a lot of people are tired about Tom Ford's aesthetic, which is interesting, because when Alessandro Michele was there, everyone was like, bring Tom Ford back. And then Sabato De Sarno kind of tried to do Tom Ford and people are like, we don't like it. And then Demna is doing Tom Ford and people are like, we don't like it. So I think people need to make up their minds about what version and what vision of Gucci they actually want. By the way, how do you feel about the Michael Jacksonification of everything fashion country? Currently, the military jackets and importantly, the aviator sunglasses being just pushed for spring. I mean, so this is definitely something I've been seeing across the board. However, I will say in the case of Gucci, it's more to do with Tom Ford. I mean, Tom Ford used to wear aviators. Like, all these signifiers are to do with Tom Ford, to be fair. But what you're saying, I have been seeing it across fashion. Like the loafers, the white socks, the gloves. I've been seeing it a lot in menswear collections. Wait, Dami's saying they want the misogyny. Oh, are you talking about when Tom Ford used to, like, the way he used to present women? Yeah. I think Tom Ford got oversaturated, and for some, it's a bit early for it to come around. For others, especially young people who weren't around, it feels fresh. Yeah, that's fair enough. But anyway, those are my thoughts on the Gucci collection. Let me just share with you a few quotes via Demnagram. So Demna said, my challenge and my mission as a designer is to create a product that triggers desire. I want people to have FOMO about the products. Now, once again, I love Demna, but Demna should stop talking, because what about this collection does he think? And I know this was a big theme. I mean, in the Vogue review, they talked about this idea of fear of missing out. But what about this collection, realistically, if we're being really honest, triggers FOMO? What actually triggers FOMO in this collection? Nothing. So moving on, let's read some more quotes. There are some other quotes, I think they were on Demnagram, but if not, oh yeah, it was this one. In my idea of luxury today, heaviness and stiffness is not really a sign of durability like it used to be a century ago. Luxury is about comfort. And I totally agree with that. But I do think questions need to be asked about, are they doing that because they're trying to cut corners and save cost? Or are they doing it because they actually just want everything to be light to the body? Because that is very good. I want a leather jacket that's thick so I can wear it in the winter, and then I want a leather jacket that looks exactly the same and drapes on the body exactly the same, but it's lightweight, so I'm not sweating like a crazy person when it's warmer. So these are things that people actually need to wear, to be honest. The lack of FOMO is the problem with almost all of fashion right now. Everyone has all these garments already. Exactly. So that's what I don't understand what Demna is talking about when he says, you know, I want people to have FOMO about the product. It's like you're not really going to have FOMO about products that you already own, like track jackets and leather jackets and blue denim and duffel bags, like, and classic loafers. Like, people already own these products, so I don't really understand any of that. So I just, like I said, Demna, it sounds really mean that he like should stop talking, but it's not that designers should stop talking, it's him specifically. Because every time he says something, it always works against him. Always. Like, I've actually never seen a quote from Demna where it works in his favor or actually makes sense in the relevance of like what he's designing. It never makes sense. It never aligns. It's never in line with what he's designing. It always kind of is in contradiction with what he's presenting, like every single time. I've actually never, you guys, if you can, point out to me one quote that Demna has made since he started at Vetements where it aligns with what he's actually doing. Like, I'll actually wait. I'll see what you guys come up with in the chat. I'll have to keep out for more Demna quotes from now on. Yeah. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Gucci. Obviously, let me know what you guys think. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club, where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.